Welcome to Talks with the Invisible Gardener. I'm Andy Lopez, your host. This is where we dig into soil health and learn how to grow smarter organically. Ready to clean up your garden and the planet? Let's go. Don't panic, it's organic. Hi everybody, Andy Lopez, Invisible Garden here. Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about Sooty mold. I know it sounds awful, but I'm going to show you how to control it, and towards the end, I'll give you my secret to you on why it has Sooty mold and how to really, what's a real deep problem on it. So let's get started, okay? So, you see what it looks like? It looks really awful. That's why it's called Sooty mold. And basically, Sooty mold, I've learned from experience how, because when I started doing gardening, people's places look like this, and I'm going, what is that, right? So it's a mold, and I've learned from experience that it grows from the nectar that the plants attack. So when whiteflies attack it, when there's a wide variety of creatures attack it, the bugs produce a nectar. Now here's the thing. So ants are the number one group of folks that use whiteflies. They use whiteflies, mealybugs, a bunch of other things. They herd them like cattle because ants want that nectar. See, ants. Think of whiteflies as a small cow and the ants will milk them, and they get that nectar. Now the ants, and one of the things I don't understand, because the ants are a female-run organization, they should clean up after themselves, but they don't do that. So they leave a lot of nectar around, which is basically like a honeydew that comes from the whiteflies or the aphids or a bunch of all the different creatures that do the very same thing. And that's where the mold grows on. So you really have an ant problem when you have a Sooty mold problem. There's a couple of different problems you have, and I'll go over it with you some more, okay? So this is what these are like aphids in the young stage. Scales also happens to be another one. There's a wide variety of creatures that do this. Is honeydew, and it doesn't necessarily attract it. What happens is the Sooty mold is a mold that grows on it. So the ants bring to the plant not only the aphid or whatever creature they're using underground, but they also bring the disease with them as well. It's a natural thing that they carry with them, because ants will go from one plant to another plant to another plant to another plant. Anywhere anywhere along the line, if they run across a plant that has a disease, which they usually do, because a lot of times when the ants climb up a tree and they milking for the nectar, they leave a lot of stuff behind, and then the mold grows and the ants go back up again. So yeah, the ants will get it over their feet, get over the skin, get over the little hairs that they have, and they'll basically be on their body, and they tend to spread that as well. So they will go to another plant who has who it's ready to be eaten, ready to be attacked. See, ants don't suck the plant directly. They don't attack the plant directly. They herd them like cattle. Okay, and so that's an issue that I'll tell you how to control really very easy. So they're natural. There are lots of predators that you can use that will go after the whiteflies. I have a friend who got a aardvark. Is an ant eater, and he realized I have an ant problem and nothing I could do about it. And there is, because he wasn't really listening to me when I told him how to control the ant problem. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that towards the end of the show. But basically, he got an ant bar which went up to the ants, and it stopped the ants from climbing up. So one of the things you wanted, again, when you do predators, I would use predators as a last resort, only because you can't really do anything else. You have to let the predators do their thing, otherwise you will kill them as well, and you really don't really want to do that. Secondly, I know so many people that have bought ladybugs and bought so many different kinds of praying mantis, only to have them disappear from your property because there's nothing to keep them in your place. They would travel. I had one customer who complained she bought like $100 or $200 worth of praying mantis. He released them and whiteflies. The next door neighbor says thank you, because all of them went over to their place, and they didn't stay too very long because they will fly. I have one person that keeps them inside a greenhouse. So you just have to remember that that when you use predators, you're not really dealing with the law of cause and effect. You're just bringing other plants around, other creatures to eat it, but you're not solving the reason why the plants have the Sooty mode in the first place. And so these are the Nemo walls will not only affect the the insects that come around that cause Sooty mode, but it will also affect the Sooty mode itself. One of the things you understand is that it's a fungus among us, right? It's a fungus, and there are lots of different ways that you can kill that fungus. And Nemo happens to be one of them. Uh, uh, Natural oils is another one of them. Milk happens to work really, really good because milk is, you remember your parents said, drink your milk for your calcium? Well, milk is a very good source of calcium, and calcium is one of the deficiencies that plants have. And if they have a calcium deficiency, they will have a trace mineral deficiency because of the calcium that helps to manufacture the different trace minerals that they need. So if you're deficient in calcium, you're also going to be deficient in lots of different trace minerals. And if you're deficient in trace minerals, the nectar will, first of all, the ants can tell that plant is so healthy that the aphids will die, because the aphids can only attack plants that are deficient in trace minerals. And the reason for that, and I discovered that is that it's the same thing with humans. When their plants are sick, that is, when they're trace mineral deficiency, they produce in their bodies simple carbohydrates as opposed to complex carbohydrates. Now, if you think about that for a second, you go simple carbohydrates as opposed to complex carbohydrates. So which do you think that the bugs and the ants will go for as opposed, which do you think, whether you think they're going to go after the simple carbohydrates or the complex carbohydrates? It doesn't take a genius to figure out. They will go after the simple carbohydrates because the bugs cannot digest the complex carbohydrate. That's why it's called complex carbohydrates. See, and what makes it complex is the trace minerals. So the more trace minerals you have, the more complex it is. That's why it's called complex carbohydrates, right? It's the same thing in the human body. If you start producing simple carbohydrates, you're going to be attacked by one disease or one pest or another, as opposed to having complex carbohydrates in your body. So it's just like what you eat, right? The same thing with the plants. The plants have to eat the right food. In order for them to get the right food, the soil biology has to be there. Insecticidal soap is one of those things that will go after the aphids, and also because it's a soap, the Sooty mode can be washed off. That's one of the things. One of the problems that happens with Sooty mode is that it's a dark. It covers the leaves and inhibits the plant from absorbing the sun, which it needs. It needs also. So it's already weak, and it gets weaker when it has the Sooty mode on top of it. It can't do the photosynthesis, right? So it can't process the energy that it needs. So it starts to go downhill. It gets worse and worse and worse. So insecticide soap is an easy one to get rid of the aphids. It's also, you spray it on and get a soft cloth and wash. Wipe the mold off. But that's not going to solve your problem. Horticultural oils, again, is one of those oils that suffocate. It'll suffocate the not only the white flies, but also when you're spraying, if you spray the ants on, the ants won't like it either. But because it's an oil, it might not work as well as the horticultural as the soap would, because remember, the soap will wash off the mold. The oil will make it more difficult to get off. So I probably wouldn't use horticultural oil on Sooty mode, unless what you do is you use it once to get rid of the aphids, and then you want to have a mild soap solution that you can wash off, clean up the leaves, because they'll still be covered. Because once you get rid of the aphids, you have to clean the leaves in order for them to start getting nutrition again. But the real thing to do is, like I said, you have to clean them. So just a nice wash with water. I have a spray rig that I can spray it down. So I add a little bit of soap to it. And what I spray with is biology, because that's the best thing to spray on these plants. It will rinse off. So if you're making compost tea, if you're making any kind of tea, you want to be able to spray that. And the air circulation is really very, very good, because, like it says, that they need to breathe. But a lot of times a mold doesn't grow very well if the air is circulating around it, right? It inhibits their growing, so it's it's a lot harder for them to get established. And so that's one reason why also too you don't want to plant plants so close together, because then the disease will spread from one to the other, one to the other, one to the other, really, really super fast, right? So letting the air flow through, because in the air itself should have the right type of bacteria to control the sooty mold as well. And one of the things that you really want to deal with, and this is important, is your real cause. Remember, I talked about the law of cause and effect. So the effect is the sooty mold, which also happens to be it's like a triple effect, because the part of the effect is the ants go nuts, and the ants have more and more ants are climbing up a tree, bringing more of their cattle along with them. So that's the problem, but that's the cause. That's the effect, not the cause. The real cause is your soil. People come to me and say, I have ants, whiteflies. I tell them, you do not have an ant problem or a Wi-Fi problem. You have a soil problem. If you get that into your brain, I have a soil problem. And then what is it that I need to do to get the soil together? Now, the soil takes time, right? It takes time to heal. Imagine you've been doing this for years and years on your property, and your garden's getting worse and worse. So it may take you a couple of years to get your soil back in shape. In the interim, you can use any of the other things I mentioned to control them. That's why foliar feeding is very important. That's why, so when you make compost, you want to have a minerally rich compost. And one of the easiest ways to have minerally rich compost is the earthworms. The earthworms will produce, so if the earthworms are living in your soil, then you know you're doing something right, okay? You shouldn't have any problems. You already have earthworms. The first thing I would just go out there and see if you find the earthworms. If you do find the earthworms, then that means that your soil is alive, but you need to feed it, put nutrition into the soil, because they don't get it from anywhere. You have nowhere. They get it from someplace. And normally in nature, Mother Nature provides that for them, right? Whether it be a volcano blowing up and spewing rock dust everywhere, or whether Mother Nature is really very good at circulating trace minerals around the earth. It used to be, because now we have a problem with so many different things upsetting nature that it doesn't work as well in people's properties. And you don't have an animal coming and dying and decomposing and returning all the minerals and all that stuff back to the soil. So you want to make sure that you make a minerally rich, biologically rich compost. And the best way to do that is what I do is I have a worm farm. I grow specifically the worms, and the worms survive in my farm, and I give them 96 different trace minerals, lots of different ways you can get trace minerals. We're going to do a show on trace minerals, but there are lots of ways you can get trace minerals into that worm bin. And in there, you also have a biochar, because you need not only just organic matter, but you need carbon. That's what the plants need. That the soil needs carbon in order to convert all the trace minerals into a nutrition that they can use. So you want to make sure that you have the most rich, the trace mineral rich product you can get your hands on. Because remember, 98 trace minerals is a lot of trace minerals, and you usually have a hard time getting just 70 of them. The other ones I call exotic. That means that you're not going to find them really, really super easy. What's one of the reasons why when I make compost, I get different types. I get sheep manure, rabbit manure, goat, cow is very, very important. I even gotten elephant manure. So each animal has different biology in their stomach. Rudolf Steiner really liked the cow, because the cow has two stomach, and they have a specific biology in there that's very good at breaking things down. So you're making compost, make sure you have the cow manure in there. Horse manure is fine, but chicken and horse and rabbit, all these other ones do not have the same biology that the cow does. It's all about the stomach. And so you want to make sure that you get that cow in there. That's why it's easier to buy steer manure, stuff like that, use it in. Or if you have, if somebody has a farm, the cow, get their manure. And you don't want it to get it fresh. You want to get it after it sit there for a little while, and then you make your compost. You bring it home and you make your compost from that. And then you'll know you have all the trace mineral you need. That's why people buy earthworm castings, because they're very rich. But remember, the earthworms have to be able to get it from someplace. Usually it's in the soil. Usually Mother Nature puts it in the soil, and the worms will take it. So you have to be Mother Nature in this case. Then one of the things that you need to do is you need to uh, like you basically need to stay one step ahead of the problem. And this comes about very simply by learning how to make a minerally rich tea, minerally biologically rich. That's all you really need to learn to do. You get good at that right away, and you can solve the problem even before it starts. And then again, you want to, then at the same time, you want to make sure you increase the biology and the organic matter in your soil. So therefore, you either make compost or you buy compost from somebody that does make it. Any compost you buy in the store is not going to have the biology you need. That's the key. You can't. I have so many people calling me up. I bought this compost from the store. I put it down. I still have the same problem. No biology in there. Anything in a sealed bag doesn't have biology in it. And there are some places that sell compost that have little holes punched in it. That's the ones you want. But even that, it's not a complete. Those things you buy in the store, in my opinion, do not have the 98 trace minerals. So you want to be sure that you have it. So when if you buy the compost from the store, you want to add sources of trace minerals to it. That's why rock dust is very good. But what you have to do is you have to get a couple of different varieties of rock dust because each rock dust have their own sources of trace minerals. One rock dust is the one rock dust that I really like has 30% calcium. You're not going to find that in too many other places. And the calcium is one of the most important. So you want to get rock dust that has calcium in it. You want to get rock dust from a couple of different sources to have a blend of different kinds of rock of minerals. I also get a source of rock dust, a source of minerals. It's called C90, SCA-90. Look it up. They have 90 trace minerals. So you know that you're getting closer and closer to getting these exotic trace minerals. And these exotic trace minerals are only created by Mother Nature. So when we have a blend of all these other things in there, right, from different sources, the exotic trace minerals will whether it be the earthworms or whether the biology, they will break it down and produce the exotic trace minerals that you need. And so that's the key to it. You want to start from the bat. You need to understand that if you don't key into the trace minerals, you're going to have to key into it sooner or later. The sooner you get into using trace minerals and biologically rich sources, the sooner your problems will go away. You won't have these problems. So you shouldn't have to wait until you have a problem to start doing it. This should be a normal thing that you do. You should be making compost, making the most minerally rich, most biologically rich compost you can get your hands on or make. And that's the key right there in the soil. And you also might make a tea from you spray. So use a lot of that, increase the biology all the time. One of the things I tell people, and they say, well, why is the biology dying? Well, it dies for many reasons, right? The first reason is city water kills biology. It has chemicals in it to kill the biology. It sterilizes it. So if you're sprinkling your garden with your vegetable garden with city water, it's going to be killing your soil biology on a regular basis. It will never allow it to get established. You're going to have these problems. So you want to deal with that right off the bat. You want to get a good whole property garden filter, water filter. There are many on the market. Look it up. And you'll find that your biology will constantly be increasing all the time. That's what you want because Mother Nature is constantly adding biology to it. Animals are dying, birds, and all that kind of stuff. And maybe 100 years ago, there should be a lot more animals doing stuff. 1,000 years, definitely were animals running around all over the place, eating and dying and converting themselves back to Mother Nature. And that's what you want to do. You want to be able to key into the biology right off the bat, whether you're making it or whether the soil's making it. Somebody's had to be making this stuff, right? So you want your soil to be biologically alive, and you want your liquid to be biologically alive because it's constantly being destroyed. Okay, so Sooty mode is just the tip of the honeydew iceberg. Okay, so if you tackle the root cause, the black stuff disappears on its own. You will not have the problem. The ants will go to another place. Oh, look, that's food for us. So they know it from experience. If I take my aphids and I put it on this plant and the plant dies, not good. So why is it no good? They say, well, that one is, I'll take it over there and this survived, so they go over there. After a while, they see because they have a refractometer, and I talk a lot about refractometer. I'll do a show on that. They see that it looks different than that one. So they will go, after years and years and many generations of learning, automatically that one looks right. So they have a built-in refractometer, which tells them that that plant is weak, that plant's missing the trace mineral C, that plant's perfect food for my aphids or my white flies, and therefore there'll be perfect nectar for me. So that's the show for today. Thank you for coming by. Remember to like, share, and follow. Visit my website, invisiblegardener.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week. Bye. It's been great. I'm Andy Lopez. Thanks for hanging out with me on Talks with the Invisible Gardener. If you like what you heard, hit follow, drop a like, and leave a comment. I actually read them. Want more good dirt? Visit invisiblegardener.com. And remember, don't panic, it's organic.